All right. You can see that we're live. It says at the top we're live. That means
Yeah.
we're live.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to do a quick introduction. My name is Linda, and of course, this is on my profile, so you know me if you're going to be watching this. I'm a travel coach, and I'm also a travel agent with Travel Only. And today, another fun conversation with Leslie, the travel coach. Leslie,
Hi, how
hi.
are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me here.
It's good to see you again. Good to see
Yeah,
you
you
again.
too.
So we met a few weeks ago and we had a really fun conversation, and I thought we got to do this again, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been into travel coaching, I guess, sort of aside just with my friends because I love it so much,
Right?
for about 4 years now.
Mm,
And what actually ended up happening was my husband and I love to travel. Love to travel to all the places that people are like, why are you going there? But what we ended up doing was we came across this video on YouTube actually about travel hacking.
right.
And we were like, what is this? People are traveling for free? No,
Yeah.
it can't be a thing. This has got to be a scam. And then we started to learn more and more about it. And we were like, why does not everybody know this? Like, this has to be shouted from the rooftops. And that's what we kind of started to do just with our friends. So we started to learn. It became an obsession almost of both of ours because we were like, you don't get free stuff in this world. Like, what is this?
That's
And
true.
then, right? And then it ended up, it's all legit. And we have been to so many different countries now, continents. I mean, I was able to spend a month in Thailand. We've been to Africa on 3 different safaris, completely paid for. Nicaragua, where my son and I
Wow.
were able to go scuba diving for the first time. So it's been amazing for us. Our son is now 19. I think he's been to 20 something countries in the world. And just watching how much our life has changed, as well
Right.
as everybody else's life that is now traveling for free,
Right.
it's just been a journey, and it's been amazing for us to see the difference that experiencing the world without that stress of money and
Yeah.
for
Well,
this and all that stuff. It's amazing to watch.
we're going to talk like last time we met, we talked about how it transformed your lives, but also your son's life. We'll talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that. First, I want to know, where do you live?
So we live in a very little town just in Ontario here. So
Okay.
we're like southwestern Ontario, just outside of Brantford. And yeah, we live in this tiny little place, and not a lot of people where we live travel. So when they
Right.
hear that we're going to Ethiopia,
Right.
they're like, "What? Why?" But it's because it's beautiful,
Yeah.
Well, my
Yeah.
son actually won that trip, but we wouldn't have went there, and because we did, it's changed our lives.
Yeah. I'm now in Elliott Lake, population 11,500, I
Oh,
think. Is
yeah.
yours bigger or smaller?
It's way smaller. Ours is about
Okay. All right.
1,500.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That aside, I want to know more about how traveling has changed your lives, and maybe a
Yeah.
few hacks too, if possible. That would be
Yeah.
helpful too.
So honestly, we really started to see a difference in travel after the very first time we went to Africa. So it was our first real safari. So it was myself, my husband, and I, just the three of us went on that trip. And this trip was going to be about $25,000. And I'm like, this is not something that we could afford
Right.
typically.
Yeah.
We did have a business, and we had a few businesses actually that we put a bunch of money on credit cards every month
Yeah.
to our suppliers. So we actually took a look at the numbers, and we were like, this is completely doable. So
Yeah.
we booked that trip, and we went, and it was the most inspiring trip we've ever been on. So we flew into Kilimanjaro. We stayed at a place called the Farmhouse for the first night before we started our safari. And it was just spectacular. There's monkeys jumping all over our breakfast, hall, our breakfast hall, which is just like an open air dining hall made out of trees, And on that trip, we had this most amazing guide. And he often takes out guests who are traveling with National Geographic right? So he's very good on getting those pictures, and he would take out the photographers and all of that. And so we said to him when we started, we don't want a regular safari. Take us on all those back roads where people are afraid to go. That's where we want to go.
Okay.
And he was like, really? And we were like, no, we're serious. Like we want to be doing that, and we want to learn about culture. And it was amazing. So he took us to a local market and taught us all about like trade and how people just survive there. And it's so
how
different.
they live, right? That's how they live, by trading all the time, or
by trading, and a lot of bananas. So one of their biggest export is bananas, right? And we learned in these trips, we've been there twice with him now. We learned in these trips, though, that there's a whole community that lives off of bananas. And there's a couple hundred houses in this community. We went to it. There's thousands of banana trees. It's just a canopy over this humongous area of land. They build their houses out of the banana plants. They build, dishes and souvenirs, and they do they make banana beer. Like they cook with bananas.
Really? So banana beer. Okay, that's a different story.
Yeah, it's delicious too. But it's a currency, and it was at that point that we were just kind of like, wow, like we don't know that in Canada.
Right. Yeah.
And when we were in Zimbabwe, we watched people standing in front of the bank there, and I mean lineups, and it was not early in the morning. It was 10, 11 o'clock, and they just wait out there to wait and see if the bank is going to open, and whether
if it's going to open.
Yeah, and whether or not there's going to be any money for them in there.
Oh.
So this country went from being pretty wealthy to going through a crazy economic crisis where their money had to go and get groceries, you had to have a backpack full of cash. And then they woke up one morning and their government said to them, sorry, we're no longer using Zimbabwe money. It's all US. So everybody was wiped out. They had no money. So seeing those kinds of things in the world, that you're like, we live in Canada, and yes, it's a terrible economy right now and all of those things, but you know what? Other places around the world have been dealing with these same things forever, and look at them thriving.
Yeah. I think like that.
Yeah, and they're just wonderful human beings all around. I mean, we've met the kindest, most humble people in Ethiopia.
And it's got a bad rap.
It's gorgeous.
You know what I mean? Like we've heard stories of kids kids that are suffering on TV, these things on TV, and you're saying, no, it's different. It's not.
It is. It's so different. It's stunning. The poverty is, you see it. You see the poverty everywhere. But you know what you also see everywhere is every single little community we went through had a foosball table on the side of the road, and everybody was playing foosball.
Right.
You don't see that in the side of the road in Canada. You'd get in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a sense of happiness, of joy.
It's so much happiness and joy. And, the Western world, I would say, is very much into money. And I would say at one point in time, we were as well. Now we are just minimalists. Right. We don't have stuff because if it doesn't fit in my carry-on, do I need it?
Right. So your traveling style has changed too then.
Oh, yes. My husband and I were both overpackers, and we still fight to this day about overpacking. But yeah, everything I have is a carry-on pretty well. We have a lot of stuff in our house. We've got, it's not just a couple of things from around the world, but honestly, if you were to actually see my house, it's pretty bare.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of knickknacks or anything like that, because
Yeah.
that's not what gives me joy. Being in a new culture and learning all about diversity, that's the stuff that just gives me the joy.
Right. So what else have you learned from traveling?
Um,
Or your son? I mean, how has your son been affected by this? Because I'm
yeah.
assuming that maybe was it shocking at first? Or let's talk a little bit about
Well,
that.
he lives from this tiny town, right? So we're honestly in our small town, there's not even diversity really.
Right.
It's a small farming community. That's all it is. And it's been incredible. Honestly, I'm so proud that he was able to do those things in life and at the right age, I think, because it really has transformed who he's become. And I know, like, people say, oh, we don't see color and we don't see culture and religion and all that stuff. He truly does not see those things.
Right. Yeah.
Because he was exposed at the right time to
How
all
old
of
was
that.
he? How old?
He was about 9 when we really started to travel.
That's a good age.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was able to ask all those questions. And, now he's looking at spending 6 months of the year in one continent and 6 in another continent. He's got his business all planned out, and he's, he's working very hard at getting things going. But his passion in life is to build wells throughout Tanzania.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think he would have developed this passion had he not received that prior experience of living in different countries and so on?
No. And I see he loves each place differently. So we've been to Singapore. He's a car guy. So, cars and money, he was like, this is amazing. Loved it. But on every trip we've ever been on, he's like, it's no Tanzania. It's no Alfred with our guide. Oh. And that's really what it has always boiled down to for us. It's having that experience that we can really finally go to locations that are going to show us the real world.
And I'm wondering too, I don't know, but because I've never been to those countries, do you get a sense of community? Do you get a sense of family? We're home, that feeling of this is where I belong kind of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always say I think somebody screwed up and threw me in Canada instead of Africa. I was definitely born to live in Africa. I don't know why I'm here in Canada, but it's been, there's just so many experiences, right?
And when you say Africa, it is a big continent, man.
Yeah.
It's a big continent. There's a lot of countries in Africa.
Yeah. So we've done Tanzania twice. Our son won a trip to Zimbabwe through Ethiopian Airlines. So it was Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Ethiopia. And we've also been back and went to see the silverback gorillas in Uganda. Just recently, that was just a year and a half ago, I guess. So each African destination we've been to, I fall in love with all of it, except for Zimbabwe for some reason. Just touristy, because we were in Victoria Falls, I think. We weren't in the true Zimbabwe. But it's just that sense of especially when I'm in Tanzania, it's just where I'm supposed to be in the world.
Really? Wow.
I don't know why. You drive around, all the families are out together. You see big congregations of people wherever it is. If it's at a house and everybody's sitting in someone's front yard, having popping water or a beer or whatever it is. You go to restaurants and everybody knows everybody when you're on these trips. And the joy over food, which sounds crazy, but like in Ethiopia, I could not stop eating. It is like, oh my goodness. I kept saying to my husband, I am going to be 200 pounds by the time we leave here because the food was just amazing.
Oh,
And it's eaten as a community.
oh,
So it's a lot of stews. It's called Watts, and it has an injera bread that's made out of teff that I absolutely love. But basically, all of those stews are put on top of the injera bread, and then you also get to pick off injera bread, and that's what you eat the actual stews with. So there's no utensils or anything.
oh,
But it's made to share with family and friends. So it comes out like seriously on this great big platter, just full of food, and everybody just shares it. And it's things like that where that used to just be the typical way of the world.
yeah.
Everyone shares food and meals, and
I'm sure they talk too. I'm just thinking of, remember back in the day, we used to have Sunday dinners, and yes, people were around the table and they would actually talk. And now it's not so much like that in Canada anyways, like in our regular type of families. But what you're saying is that this was the norm.
It was always the norm. And a difference with cell phones too, we've noticed all around the world. So depending on countries, Thailand and Asia, like we were in Singapore and Bali as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those countries, their cell phone is really good for the most part. Like Thailand, there's some areas where you don't really get very good reception. So those communities are different again, because you don't have that cell phone that's taking your time away from those people and experiences that you're with. And in Africa, where cell phones they're considered expensive there, especially like in Tanzania. I mean, I think it's $5 for a month. It's supposed to be a month, but it usually doesn't last that long. So you have to go and get topped up, and they just can't afford it there. So they don't use their cell phones like we do. So when you're having a conversation with somebody there, you're not going to be like, I don't know, Google it, because that's going to cost them money, right? So they're not going to. Like, you actually have real conversations with people.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Wow. So how have you been able to do this? You've mentioned, a little bit at the beginning, but not enough.
Yeah. So travel hacking is just one of those things that as soon as we heard about it, we were like, if this works, like, people really need to understand how much of a game changer this is in your life. So what travel hacking essentially is you're just traveling on points and miles. And there's a small difference between points and miles, but it is just basically referring to like what you're accumulating on credit card.
Right.
So the way that we have always done it is that we use our credit card spending. We don't spend additional. But we just make sure that we have the right credit card to get us from point A to B to get that trip in for free. So as an example, points you usually get from loyalty programs, which are your Marriott Bonvoy loyalty program or your Hyatt or those kinds of.
So those are hotels, right?
Those are hotels.
Right.
And then we also have Aeroplan, which is air miles, just because we're in Canada and it's the best one right now for Canadians. Mm-hmm. So we track our spending based on, okay, where do we want to go next?
Okay.
And if that is going to be Tanzania, it's always going to be if I have a say, then we figure out what the cost is. So step one, how many points do I need for flights?
Okay.
What airline am I going to travel? And I'm always traveling business class for a bucket
nice.
Trip. It's just the way it is. And when you are doing this using points, it's actually super cheap to travel using points compared to cash. So we use if we're going to be traveling through Aeroplan to get points, then we use our credit card, which is a TD Aeroplan Visa credit card on everything. that we need it for.
So that's how you accumulate points, right?
Yeah,
You know,
just
I'll just
everything.
keep my part brief for a second. When I was married to my third husband, he would put everything,
Yeah.
everything
Hmm.
on a credit card.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was for air miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even a dollar video. He
Oh
would
yeah,
put
me too. Yeah.
everything. And I thought,
Everything.
you know, I was questioning. I mean, we're talking about many years ago. I was questioning, like, why would you do that? But the
Yeah.
guy was smart at the time. That's
Yeah.
what he was doing, accumulating air miles. Right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's super smart. So, you know, and you know, even if I'm buying a chapstick or whatever, you know, if we're together, then Jamie's paying for it and I'm paying my card off as he's paying for it already. So the key to making all of this work, obviously, there's a few key points that people just need to keep in mind. And just because you have a credit card and you're trying to accumulate points doesn't mean you spend extra money.
Right.
You don't
This-
have to.
Yeah, because I think this is what people's concerns would be. Am I going to get in debt with this?
No,
know?
and it has to be paid off every single month. So the reason that it works is because you're not spending additional. If you're spending additional money to gather points, why wouldn't you just use that money towards the trip anyway? Right? Like, so we need to make sure that we're not negating anything that we're trying to accumulate on the credit card by simply just using our regular spend. And we know, I mean, for us, we know what our regular spend is. Groceries, oh geez, since our son moved out, like 19, our groceries went down literally like $800 a month, which
Oh,
is
wow. Right.
crazy.
So knowing your budget and knowing where your money goes helps, you know, a bit,
Yes.
right? I guess.
Yeah. So we do a budget first. I do have a course that I teach and I walk people through it. And the very first step is always create a budget. And there's two budgets that you create. So the first one is going to be your personal budget. So anything household related that you can find a way to use a credit card for, you're going to use that credit card for it. So there's even places that you can cover your rent by credit card. They're more common in the US. We don't use them. We have a mortgage, so I don't know exactly how they work, but
Yeah.
my husband's here. We are constantly looking for those sort of new ways to
Right.
create income. Like right now, we're still paying our insurance on just like it just comes out automatically. So I'm going to call and have them take it off our credit card
Right.
instead, because we can now do that with our insurance provider where we couldn't before.
Yes.
And that's the thing is like, just know what your spending is. I know that like we spend a lot on groceries, but where we spend groceries, we can only use MasterCard. So what we did was we have a MasterCard that gives us a good multiplier, and it actually gives us travel cash. And this is like another key aspect to the travel points that people forget about is you get cash for travel. And that cash for travel can be used for things like a car rental, as an example, an excursion. If you're going to get excursions,
Right.
you know, obviously there's two ways to look at it. There, you can find some local person on a beach somewhere that wants to send you a package, or you can buy it in ahead of time through something like Viator.
Right.
Viator, whatever. Everybody says it different, I think. Where you can book it online and pay for it using the cash that you have on your travel credit card and not have to worry about chasing some guy down a beach to find out if you can get into that excursion today or you have to wait or whatever. So it's very key that you're collecting your loyalty points, your hotel points, and your airline points, and you're also collecting them through credit card purchases.
Right.
So a lot of us are Amazon spenders, and this will give you a good idea of the difference between loyalty programs and credit card programs. So Aeroplan, for example.
Yes.
We shop at Amazon. This is when everybody is going to want to start shopping because Black Friday and Christmas deals. So when we shop at Amazon, we log in through our Aeroplan app. And it's very easy. You go into the app.
Wait a minute. I just want to make sure I understand. So instead of going directly on Amazon,
Yep.
you're going in through a kind of a back end,
Yep.
your Aeroplan app.
Yep. So our Aeroplan app, I think there's about 200 different
Got it.
stores now, and they're good stores. Like they're stores that I shop at, like Lululemon and Under Armour and Nike and Adidas. And,
In order to get your points.
yeah, so
That's a gem. That's a gem.
and we actually, it's called stacking points, because what we do is we log in, we input our loyalty program number, which is a 9-digit number for Aeroplan, random fact that I know. And then, so you are always going to get just the loyalty points. And usually with Amazon, the loyalty points are like, I think it's if you spend $20, you get 1 point or 5 points. I forget what it is. But
Yeah.
this time of the year, when you do that, you can get like 10 times or 20 times the points
Oh,
at Amazon.
right.
And then what we do as well is the credit card that we've put in to pay for those is also our Aeroplan credit card.
Right, right.
So now, especially now, we might be getting 12 or 15 times the points at Aeroplan throughout November, December.
Wow. And you share some of these hacks plus more, I guess, in the course that you just mentioned. Tell us
Yeah,
a little bit more about that course, and towards the end of our chat, we'll find out a little bit more about how people can hear from you. So
Yeah,
tell us
for
a
sure.
little bit more about the course that you're offering.
So we are currently working on just finalizing, actually. I'm in the final stages of launching the course, but I went to the two most toughest critics, which is my husband and my son first. So I'm just working through their feedback. But I've designed this course because the way my husband and I had to figure out all this was listen to literally years of travel gurus and travel hacking coaches and
Right.
trying to piece it all together.
Because there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of information out there.
It is there's so much. And then I kept thinking every time, like, why doesn't anybody have a course that just like walks you through step by step
Yeah.
and shows you this is where you could get caught up. So do not do this.
Right.
Especially when it's like you're saying, oh, you're going to get all these points for all the money that you spend. And I'm on here saying, no. Just figure out your regular spending, your
Right.
personal spending and your business spending.
Right.
So we start there. What is your spending? Then we walk you through what kind of a traveler are you? People don't even know what kind of a traveler they are. And I didn't know either
Yeah. I mean,
until a few years ago. It's okay if you want to go to an all-inclusive vacation and do a fly and flop. Let's help you do that in the most luxurious one you can find. It's okay if you want to spend $25,000 like we do to go to Tanzania to hang out and have breakfast with, lions at 6 a.m. That's okay. That might not be for everybody, but we'll figure out how to help you get there.
that's
And then-
right.
And then we look at okay, so that's where you want to go. This is probably the airline you're going to want to use. These are the points that you need to collect for that airline.
So you know enough about different airlines,
Yeah.
and this would be information that they're getting in that course that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
teach them exactly how to find out what airlines transfer loyalty points to
Right.
sister airlines or hotels.
Yes.
Because you might think, well, I've only got 100,000 Aeroplan points. And I'm like, but you also have, 500,000, whatever it might be, American Express points that you can transfer to Aeroplan. Now you've got 600,000 Aeroplan points.
Yeah. Oof.
So it's a lot to learn on your own without a step-by-step process.
Absolutely.
So all I'm here to do is walk you through step-by-step to meet your travel needs and to figure out as well is your travel plans are never going to be the same. You might be traveling with different people. You're probably going to be going to different locations. Depending on the kind of traveler you are, there's going to be different kinds of expenses. So you need to plan those all out ahead of time and let's figure out how to make them all free.
Right. So there's planning. People can people be, because I don't know a lot of people that are impulsive and kind of go somewhere at the last minute. I don't personally. For example, I have a friend that loves planning trips ahead of time.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is the ideal, is that you're looking ahead going, I think in 6 months or a year from now, I'd like to go to this place.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah. So for the average everyday person, I was reading some stats the other day from US and Canada, and it is so sad to see how many people just aren't even going on vacation anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are taking time off of work to do their side hustle just to be able to pay bills. And I'm like, you know what? It's just crazy to me. So my goals here are to allow you to take that week off if you want to do your side hustle. But you know what? Go and do it from wherever you want to be in the world while you're doing it.
Exactly. That's right.
And it's not an added cost to you because we've already figured it out, and we've figured out how to get you there for free. Yeah. Or nearly free. I say nearly free because airlines now do charge their taxes and fees, but yes, a couple $100 for a $25,000 trip is amazing.
Yeah. We get a couple of minutes left. So before I ask you a bit more information about where people can get a hold of you, I want to hear a little bit more about the relationship between your ability to travel and the difference that it's made in your life, in your son's life.
It is now become a happy obsession for us. Is the best way to put it. So we've booked trips in the craziest ways sometimes. Like for instance, we literally were sitting at our table right behind me one night for dinner, and we were like, okay, we just got to get away. Like we were starting to get burnt out in our corporate, and I said to our son, why don't you take that globe sitting right here, which sits on our table, and give it a spin and close your eyes and figure out where we're going next. And he did, and we went.
Love that.
So we've figured trips out like that, but we did that because we knew we had a ton of points sitting there that we could use. Okay. We've also done the $25,000 trips, right, where we've pre-planned it. And for both of those, we had different outcomes that we wanted from those experiences. And when we went to Nicaragua, it was a tiny little island, a beach island called Little Coron Island. There's no cars, there's no nothing. We were burnt out, and we were like, this is amazing. This is exactly where we need to be. Right? Like, so that was a recharging vacation. We did a scuba diving for the first time, and that was something that was very cherished by me, was to be able to be there and go scuba diving with my son for the very first time. So that, and I will never forget that experience ever. And doing those expensive vacations, a lot of people don't go because they're bucket list trips and you can't afford them. And I'm like, but a bucket list trip doesn't mean that you can't afford them.
That's right. See, they have to start thinking differently now.
You have to think differently. And for me, my trips to Africa are an education. I mean, from the second we get into that Jeep till the second he drops us off in the Serengeti to hop on a bush plane and come back to reality, it's an education. And I'm learning all there is to know about the community, the government, the animals. I'm learning about the different cultures and the tribes. And, so for me, it's that excitement of I'm being there, but I'm learning all about it. And I'm learning that there's ways that I can make a change.
Right.
While I'm sitting in Canada. Right. To those people in Africa that are walking their cows literally 10 kilometers a day, just so they can drink for 10 minutes.
Right.
So it's really been about travel for me is more about the education, the learning, and pre-planning what we want to experience. I mean, like for you as an example, what is something that you would want to experience?
You know what? One of the things I think about often is just experiencing relaxation, but also the ability to be spontaneous. I want to be spontaneous, and I want to be able to feel comfortable and safe in that
Yep.
spontaneity as well,
Yep.
but also have time to just relax because I'm not into busyness
Yep.
anymore. You know?
And that's good because that is completely doable for free. You
Yeah.
know, by
Yeah.
having the right credit cards, like you're essentially going to plan out what you're accruing all, you know, on just your regular spending. And then you're going to know that if you want to be spontaneous, then you also need to have some points available sitting there in cash that you can use for excursions or for whatever it is.
Right.
Really, the only thing that you typically can't pay for is meals. Unless you're part of a dining program, which is
Right.
a whole nother conversation. But to be spontaneous and get relaxation is completely doable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question as a travel coach. You know, I'm a travel coach too. And these are the exact type of questions that we need to ask, that we ask our clients, because there's so many different ways of traveling and different experiences that people want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, you know, we hear all these crazy things, like people that are credit card churning, which basically means like they're playing Russian roulette in my mind with a credit card game where they're using one till they get the points for it, the sign up bonuses, they're canceling it, and they're automatically applying for another card. So that's where travel hacking has got its scary name from. We don't do that. This isn't about.
So there's an ethical way of doing this, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and there's something called manufactured spending, which is basically like it's a very big ethical no-no. In the travel hacking world, a lot of people do it. We choose not to because I don't want to be cut off my credit cards.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're teaching even your clients how to do this for free every year, and making sure that they're playing within the games, it's amazing how many ventures your clients can now afford.
Yeah. Wow. I can see a lot of fun, a nice little partnership as we move forward. Yeah. So on that note, let's find out how we can find out more about you.
So I'm currently on, I have new pages actually, because I've just started to really take this seriously, and why wouldn't I? I love it. Like it's everything that
there's an obsession. You use the word obsession there. So
I absolutely love everything about it. So, so I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and all three of those are under Remote Freedom Biz, B-I-Z.
Remote Freedom all together?
Yes, Remote Freedom Biz.
Perfect.
All together. And then you can reach out to me anytime. Mention that you see me on here, and we can, if it's something that you're interested in, then we can come up with a plan to get any of your viewers signed up and coming to you and saying, Linda, I have all this money now to use for travel.
Yeah. How do we do it?
Yeah. Get me hooked up. Get me.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. This is the plan, because I'm not a hacker. I'm a travel coach.
Yeah.
And I don't have the skills you have when it comes to that, or not just the skills, but the knowledge. I think it's definitely, that's definitely what we'd be doing here. Anything else you want to say before we end our live viewing? Hello.
I just want to say thank you for having me on here. This has been great. I hope everybody, starts to kind of take a serious look at their travel and think, are you getting the most out of it? What do you want to get out of it? Do you want life-changing travel? Maybe you don't, and that's okay too.
But
whatever it is,
traveling is transformative. We know that it changes lives. It's changed your life, your son's life, and we now know that there are other ways of doing it other than just charging on our credit card, but not getting the points for it.
Yeah, you might as well be getting points back. That's what they have them for. And take advantage of the free time to get away with your family, your friends, loved ones, whatever.
Sounds good. All right, Leslie.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.